Hi everyone, welcome to Games with Ben. And today I'm going to teach you how to play Arrival Push, a game of vectors. Note this is a prototype copy, so all the components you see are subject to change. In Arrival Push, you're going to be working as air traffic controllers trying to safely guide your planes to the terminal. You're going to have to avoid adverse weather, you're going to have to navigate certain events that happen, all to see who can get the most planes home safely. With that, let's learn how to play Arrival Push. To begin, let's start with player setup. Each player is going to get 6 airline cards in their starting color. They're going to get 8 airlines with their tokens. They're going to get 4 small weather tokens and 4 large weather tokens, 2 engine tokens, and 1 cube in their player color. Next, you'll want to arrange the weather deck, the aircraft deck, the launch deck, the event deck, and the airline deck next to the game board where everyone can reach them. Everyone adds the player cube of their color to the 0 marker on the breakboard. This is how you'll keep track of points throughout the game. Deal everyone 10 random aircraft cards from the aircraft deck. Then deal everyone a random starting position card. Flip them over, and this is how everyone will asymmetrically start the game. The numbers on the left are going to be the starting speeds for each airline, and the picture on the right will show you exactly where in your sector on the map your planes will start. So going back to your 6 starting airline cards, go ahead and take the corresponding marker for each one and place it on the initial speed, as indicated on the starting position card. Next, find your colored section on the map and lay out your planes to match the formation of the starting position card. Note that the direction the planes are facing does matter, so make sure those also match the direction on the card. Now would also be a good time to put out your 4 small weather tokens, matching the icon on each with the icon on the board. So your board should look something like this once your setup is complete. That's the end of setup. Before we start going into gameplay, it's going to be important to understand the anatomy of the card. First, every card is going to have a launch hex. This will show where on the game board the airline will be able to enter play, and it will also tell you the starting speed of your airline. So moving over to the game board really quick, you'll see 3 different launch hexes in each colored area, and those will correspond to the launch hexes on the card that we just talked about. Going back to the card, the next section is going to show you the speed of your aircraft once it enters certain terrains. So in this example, as soon as this airline enters the mountain area, its speed is going to decrease from 3 to 2. You'll also notice that some cards have arrows in the middle. For example, this card has a red arrow pointing down, but it does not have a green arrow pointing up. This means that this card can be slowed down by using an engine token, but it cannot be sped up. The bottom left of each card signifies whether it can fly through weather or not. In this example, it can fly through light weather, but you have to pay 1 breakpoint. The clear sky symbol means that there are no weather restrictions. It can fly through light weather. And then there's also a clear sky with a red X through it, which means it cannot fly through any weather. The bottom middle of each card just signifies the type of airline it is. And then the bottom right of each card signifies how many points you're going to get as soon as that airline reaches the terminal. And this card does not have one, but other cards also have rewards. So some might give you an engine token as soon as that airline reaches the terminal. So pay attention to that, and don't forget to collect your rewards every time an airline makes it home safely. Now that we understand the anatomy of the card, let's jump into the gameplay. The first thing you'll do each round is flip over the top card of the launch deck. This is going to determine which airlines will be able to enter the airspace that round. You'll notice some of the launch hexes may already be yellow. That means those are ready to launch, and if you have an airline waiting there, you can launch it for free. If you have an airline waiting at a different launch hex that is not yellow, you have the option to spend a launch token. And if you do that, everyone with an airline waiting at that launch hex will be able to launch their airlines. It's worth noting that in the beginning of the game, everyone starts with their airlines already on the board. so the launch card won't matter very much for the very first round. The next part of the round is every player will each draw their own weather card from the top of the deck. They'll look like this, where you will be adding or subtracting from the existing weather in your section of the board. There is a very handy chart in the rulebook that shows how the weather builds and dissipates. Starting with just the empty spots on the board. If you add to it, you go to the small single weather. You add to that, you go to the larger light weather. You add to that, you flip that over, and it becomes the dark weather. And then, it just dissipates from there, getting smaller and smaller. So check out that chart anytime you have questions on how the weather is supposed to move. Anytime weather increases and there is now a plane on a weather where there didn't used to be weather, simply put the plane on the same hex that it was on, right on top of the weather. Don't forget, this may affect the plane's movement if it cannot move through the weather that it was just placed in. After everyone is done resolving their weather, the next part of the round is flipping over the top card of the event deck. The events are pretty self-explanatory, so just do whatever the card says. In this example, it says to draw an airline card and add 5 event tokens to it. So you're going to draw the top card from this small deck, take your 5 event tokens, and add them to that airline. After the event has been resolved, the next phase is movement. Each player is going to go one by one through each of their 6 airlines, potentially more later in the game. We'll get to that. Your airlines could be moved in any order that you want, and just keep in mind the current speed of the aircraft when you're moving it. The first thing to note about movement is that you are allowed to rotate your plane one spot to the left or one spot to the right before doing your movement. This is why the direction of the plane matters during setup. After you've done your desired rotation, go ahead and move your airplane however many spaces its current speed is. Note, all of the movement has to be in a straight line. This is also the point where, if your airline card has that green up arrow or red down arrow that we talked about earlier, you can spend an engine token to either speed up or slow down your airline. This is usually a good idea if you're getting closer to the terminal and you realize you're either going to be a little bit short so you can speed it up, or you're not coming in at quite the right angle, so you need to slow it down in order to make some tighter turns. Or potentially you've got 2 planes that are going to end up in the terminal at the same time, so you need to either speed one up or slow one down to get them there on different turns. This is the perfect time to mention that you can only have 1 plane enter your terminal per round, which makes a lot of sense thematically. You can't have 2 planes entering the terminal or they will crash. So a lot of the strategy of this game revolves around making sure you get as many planes to the terminal as possible, but also making sure you try and get 1 per turn, so that you don't have a logjam close to your terminal. After you're done moving, double check which terrain that airline has gone through and decrease your speed if necessary. Also, those little tokens that denote the speed on your aircraft are double-sided, so as soon as you're done moving, flip it over to the other side and it's got a red X. That'll help you keep track of which airlines you've moved and which ones you still need to move. You'll keep moving your planes one by one until every one of your tokens has been flipped over to that red X side. Once all players have moved all their tokens to the red X side, the movement phase is done and everyone moves on to the scoring phase. During scoring, each player takes any aircraft that has made it to their terminal and returns the token back to their card. They will then collect however many breakpoints are in the bottom right of that card, along with any points from event tokens that happen to be on that card as well. In this case, the airline was worth 4 points, and there were 5 points left on the card from events. So this will score a total of 9 points. Once you've scored your aircraft, you have a choice to make. You can either keep that aircraft and redeploy it. So you're going to find the launch hex where it goes and then put the ship ready to deploy. Or you can take that airline card and discard it, which will essentially make room for a new one from that 10 card hand that you have. Once players are done scoring, it's time for the final phase, which is the draft phase. During the draft phase, you have a choice of 3 different things, and everyone can choose whatever they want. So just because I chose one thing doesn't prohibit someone else from choosing the same thing. So the first thing you can choose is take 2 engine tokens. The second thing you can choose is take a launch token. And the third thing you can do is take one of the new airlines from your hand and prepare it for launch. To prepare it for launch, you must have an available airline token. You're going to put that token on the new card and then place the aircraft token on the corresponding launch hex for that airline. Then, if you get a matching launch card in the next round, you'll be able to launch that aircraft. And that's essentially the game. You're going to continue doing this until you flip over the last event card, which is going to signify the last round of the game. After the last round, it's going to be time for final scoring. The bulk of your points are already going to be on your breakboard for delivering your plane safely, but you will get additional points for any planes still left on the board. You'll get 4, 3, 2, or 1 point, depending on how close to the terminal you got. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. So it is worth noting, I did leave out a few minor details in this how to play. For instance, there's a whole page dedicated in the rulebook on different movement restrictions and how you can't fly into outer space and you can fly into your neighbor's airspace. So check out that page in the rulebook for more movement details. As well, you might be in a scenario where one of your airlines can't move and you're going to have to make a deal. And there's a whole section in the rule book on how to make a deal, which is not a good thing. You don't want to make a deal in this game. So check out the rule book for those couple things that I didn't go in through detail here. That's all there is to Arrival Push. Hope you all enjoyed today's video. Feel free to shoot me a comment. I try and reply to all comments. And if you find this video helpful, please subscribe for more content. Until next time, game on.